what happened was that Bill Mounts, with biblical training, had asked me to teach the course on how to read and understand the Psalms with biblical training. And Fred Zaspel, he's a wonderful man of God. He has his doctor's degree in theology from Free University, Amsterdam. He's a Benjamin Warfield specialist. He collected all of Warfield's. Warfield never wrote a systematic theology. And Dr. Zaspel, he, out of his hundreds and thousands of miscellaneous articles, he wrote Warfield's systematic theology, a tremendous piece of work. A very godly pastor, very wanting to preach the word. He wanted to preach the Psalms and didn't know how to preach them and how to go at it. And he had learned about this course, and so he took the course. And then when he called me up afterward, he said, after I took the course, I couldn't wait to preach the Psalms. And so he said, would you mind if I wrote that course up as a book? I was delighted. Anything that could expand the ministry, naturally, thank God for that. And so together we produced the book, but we wrote it. Well, his desire was so pastors and teachers or just readers will want to preach it, want to read it. It's just exciting. So that's why we wrote the book. It's that, and when he started, he really didn't know how to get at it. He didn't understand there were forms of Psalms. He didn't understand poetics of how a poet puts material together. He didn't understand fully figures of speech. He didn't understand how the whole thing came to be, the editing of it. He really didn't know exactly how it points to Christ. All these things. And that's what we're trying to do in the book by having different approach. We list 8 approaches, eclectic. It has to be all at once. The number one is spiritual. You cannot understand a person if you're not in sympathy with them. You'll misunderstand them. And you have to be in sympathy with the psalmist, and you have to share his Holy Spirit. That's the first thing. If you're going to read and understand. Otherwise, it'll be for your own pride. And often, as I read commentators, the academics, they really don't understand. They don't understand the spirit of it. So that's the first approach, is spiritual. But then also very helpful is Gunkel's form critical approach, in which he scientifically grouped the Psalms by their common motifs, language, mood, and so forth into 5 distinct types of Psalms. And after I read Gunkel, this was back when I was still at Dallas, maybe back in 68, he said he had 5 types. They were lament, Psalms of lament or petition, Psalms of praise or hymns in which you celebrate God as creator and Lord of history, Redeemer, or thanksgiving, that is to say, you give praise for a particular salvation. And so thanksgiving isn't really the right word. It really means giving public acknowledgement of what God has done for you and those kind of stuff. I found him very convincing. And then I was surprised in reading the Chronicle, First Chronicle 16:14. David appointed the Levites to make petition, to give thanks, and to give praise. Exactly what Gunkel had said. And they are distinct types. And when you understand their motifs, motif is a common element that recurs. So that, for example, a lament psalm, if you read Dear John sincerely, you know you're dealing with a letter. If you have whereas, let it be resolved, you're dealing with a legal brief. If you read, "Oh Lord," you have a lament song. It's like a Dear John. And once you read that, you know what to look for. It's going to have lament, it's going to have, but you change it to confidence. You go from despair to confidence, and that's where you learn theology. That leads to petition, and it ends with praise. And when you understand that they're not, they make sense. They're not, they're going somewhere. And the poet has, like Shakespeare would have a sonnet in his mind, a form. The poet has a form in his mind when he writes a song, and it helps to know what that form is. So there's a whole chapter on that. So.